There's a lot that's been said about Megumi already. He's been wasted, he's been fumbled, he's not a good deuteragonist, things like that. To an extent, I do have some issues with his writing, but is it really as bad as we all think? In my eyes, not really. I think Megumi has a lot going for him, and I think we can only go up from here. This video will also contain manga spoilers. So, what's with all the negative opinions surrounding him in the first place? Well, Megumi was built up to be one of the greatest sorcerers of the next generation. He's from a powerful clan with a powerful ability. As a deuteragonist, we should expect some great things from him. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this meme, calling him a potential man. No lie, it's pretty funny. However, I think people take agenda posting like this a little too seriously and let it cloud their judgment of characters. Because a lot of negativity surrounding Megumi is because of reasons like this. Not to imply this meme was the start of it, just that it's a perfect example of the discourse surrounding him. At some points, I even thought the same of Megumi. He seemingly had so much potential, but it was squandered and now he's nothing. Where is that potential we were promised? Well, we have already seen a lot of it. First off, he accessed the domain for himself really early on. Of the first years, he was the first one to do it, and as of recording, the only one to do it. Hell, out of all of the students across both schools, he's one of only 3 students that's pulled off a domain, even if it's partial. He's a smart fighter to begin with, and a great tactician. Even look at his performance in Shibuya, his smart planning and helping against Dagon, or his fight with Toji. The Culling game further shows this as well. His battle with Reggie Star is one of my favorites in the series, and it really showcases how capable he is. Plus, other smart abilities he's displayed, like being able to sneak inside of shadows, which is cool as hell, honestly. He clearly knows what he's doing as a sorcerer. Gojo himself has even said that, in the past, a 10 shadows user has defeated a 6 eyes user, and that ended up being the case again, with Sukuna. Part of the discourse I've seen surrounding Megumi is the fact that Sukuna has seemingly used his powers better than he ever has. He was upstaged by Sukuna, but even that plays into his character. Megumi's spirit had already been broken by Sukuna prior to his fight with Gojo, but think about what type of effect this will have on Megumi. Besides his sister, now his body and powers are being used to kill his teacher. Despite how casual they act with each other on the surface, it is pretty clear that Gojo and Megumi have a strong connection and a long history. On top of that, he's killed others, and he's fighting a deathmatch against his friends now. So even while this aspect of Megumi might make it look like he's being upstaged, this will be crucial to his character going forward. At the end of the day, it was his powers and his body that helped kill Gojo. Megumi is still very much a part of this. In Megumi's fight with Reggie, it ended on an interesting note. Reggie said fate would toy with Megumi, and he'd die like a fool. It seems he was right. That's exactly what he's going through now. He hasn't died, but fate is toying with him. So, what's next? Well, we've seen something like this before. Something exactly like this. We've seen it with Yuji. This is what he went through in Shibuya, down to the fact it was Sukuna controlling him as well. Keep this in mind for later. The connections to Yuji are important. Before we cover that more, I want to discuss another character and how it plays into Megumi's role here. One reason I think Megumi will have a major role going forward is because of a character he reminds me of. Someone who he directly mirrors. Megumi is the new Suguru Geto. Think about it. A gifted, somewhat gloomy sorcerer, always tied to his friend, going through some horrific event causing a change in his entire outlook on life, breaking his spirit until nothing is left. His friend now has to try and save him. The connections couldn't be any more blatant. Yuji is Gojo in this situation. Megumi is Geto. The question now is, can he come back in any way? As we approach what seems to be the endgame for the series, where do we go from here? Assuming he ends up surviving, his 10 shadows would of course be wildly different, due to how the destruction of certain shadows affects it. He has less to work with, but more power. At the same time, his spirit has been completely broken too. Immediately after Shibuya, Megumi tasked Yuji with one thing, saving him. And this right here is exactly why I think he will be fine in the end. Yuji will save him, not just from Sukuna, but from himself. Yuji will have to face the same exact thing Gojo did. The idea that he might not be able to save his friend. I briefly discussed this in my JJK video where I talked about the vicious cycles of the series. But in short, Yuji is now tasked with breaking the cycle of what Gojo experienced. Part of Yuji's entire motivation is to ensure that those around him will have proper deaths. This is something that's been in the series since chapter 1. And Yuji won't stop. Even if it feels like he's not doing much, he won't give up in trying to ensure a better future for everyone around him. While on that topic, I also did a video about Yuji. There, I discussed how he's grown over the series, and specifically how persistent he is. Yuji is relentless. He won't simply give up trying to save Megumi just because it seems like he's beyond saving. So, Megumi is in good hands. The person tasked with saving him is the person who will go to any length to do that. And in that same video, I also mentioned how Yuji shares some things with Geto. He had his willpower tested. He's been made to feel worthless. He had his spirit broken. But he came out just fine. He knows how to get through it, and he'll be crucial in pushing Megumi forward as well. These two are going through similar trials. So that covers why Megumi should be fine in the end. But what about the fact that he's been hyped up so much and his potential? If we truly are in the endgame of the series, how are we going to get to see any of that? Isn't it too little too late at this point? Sure, he might survive, but what about the things we haven't seen yet? Across the entire story, Megumi has been hyped up to have vast amounts of potential and power. Yet some feel we rarely see him do much of anything, despite his role as a deuteragonist. But it's also been made very clear that he's lacking in one aspect, his mentality. Gojo had mentioned this to Megumi a while ago. He assumed that Megumi had even more potential than Yuji, and recently we've seen what Yuji is capable of learning in such a short time. He's got reverse curse technique, simple domain, he's pulling off black flashes left and right, he's a prodigy. And by all accounts, Megumi should have all of this stuff too, plus more. If he has more potential than Yuji, he should be even better than this, right? Why hasn't he displayed any of that? It all goes back to that mental aspect. And that directly ties into where Megumi is right now, even down to the fact that he refuses to be saved here. Sukuna succeeded in crushing his willpower and making him lose all motivation, despite the progress he's made so far. It's a major setback for him, but that's another major reason why I feel like he'll have a massive comeback. He's faced mental hurdles in the past. His whole life has been clouded by this, and now he's facing his biggest one yet. He's at rock bottom. Yuji, on the other hand, has experienced things like this too. In a much different manner, of course, but he's been broken before, and he survived. And after that, he grew. He became way better than before. This is a through line that's been set up for Megumi way earlier on in the series, and I'm confident we'll see a payoff for it. Megumi is his own worst enemy, and next he'll have to overcome this. Every emotion and doubt that he's facing right now ties right back into what Gojo told him. He doesn't know how to bring out his best, and with his mental state at the moment, he surely won't be getting close to that right now. Megumi may simply feel like he has no role anymore. He views himself as useless and as a burden. He feels there's no point in living, and no point in him being saved. Again, the same type of things that Yuji experienced before. Every great sorcerer has to overcome hurdles like this and recognize their place and purpose as a sorcerer. Megumi may have had an idea of that before, but now, it's all gone. He'll have to completely rethink it. Everything he's worked for is gone, and one by one, the people around him are dropping too. But with Yuji at his side, I have no doubt that he'll be able to do it, and become the best possible version of himself. These are the same problems he's encountered before, but compounded even further. What Gojo told Megumi will always be relevant. Even with how long ago it was, it's still relevant now. And even going forward, it will dictate Megumi's growth. Some may also think that Gege has forgotten this type of stuff, or that he's not focused on that plot point anymore, but I don't think that's the case. Personally, I think Gege's done an amazing job at setting things up and paying them off later. By this point in JJK, you shouldn't really expect an immediate payoff for things that have been set up. Besides the stuff I mentioned in this video so far, look at Yuji for example. After we learned his relation to Sukuna a few chapters ago, people have gone back and seen how many times it's been foreshadowed, and people have even noticed things that were so subtle they wouldn't have been noticed until now. Gege knows what he's doing, and he's playing the long game. I feel that's exactly what's going on with Megumi's character here. So we've established why Megumi will be saved eventually, and more importantly, what's going to happen once he's saved. There are still big things in store for him, but the question still remains, how will he be saved? And how will he adapt to this? It's been set up from the very beginning that Megumi's downfall would be self-inflicted in a way. His mentality has always held him back, and here it's no different. With him also technically in control of the merger now, who knows what remains? If Sukuna doesn't start it, there's a chance Megumi will. After all, he's been broken beyond belief, just like Geto was. The difference this time is the fact that Yuji will break the cycle and prevent it. He'll succeed where Gojo failed. And not just that, but Megumi will return as an improved version of himself. Yuji won't let him die at rock bottom. As cliche as it might sound, this isn't the end for Megumi. It's a new beginning. It's a major fork in the road, but ultimately, he will be saved, both from Sukuna and from himself. However, it won't be simple. I don't think Megumi will simply bounce back from this in an instant. After all, he feels his life has no value now. He declined being saved even after all the effort everyone's gone through. He won't just simply get up and accept it. And it makes sense. I've also seen him criticized for this. After all that's been done to save him, why is he acting like this now? Well, just look at all the stuff I mentioned before. Megumi lost nearly everything, even down to his physical body. He's been forced to watch all of this, and at the end of the day, he's still a kid. It feels a bit unfair to blame Megumi for acting this way. In order to completely take over him, Sukuna did say that he had to break Megumi's soul, and even if it's unintentional, he's gone way beyond that at this point. He succeeded long ago. Everything now is just salt in the wound. Megumi's been completely crushed. He can't simply walk this off. And because of that, the connections to Geto may go even deeper than this. For all we know, he may end up as one of the final antagonists, maybe the final antagonist. Kenjaku had even mentioned prior that his will would be carried on, and that he'd need a backup plan. There's a reason he chose Megumi. Think of what Kenjaku knows too. He's commandeering Geto's body. He knows what lengths a broken, powerful sorcerer can go to. Fate is toying with Megumi as Reggie said. What he's going to do from here on out, we can't say for certain. Even though I think the vicious cycle will be brought to an end, that doesn't stop it from repeating itself once more. If you'd like to hear more about how JJK's story deals with vicious cycles, check out the video I've linked above. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.